additional categories.
What are you doing, Tweed?
Too bad. It's very cold here.
We just wear the opposite down here.
Chamber. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting being held on Tuesday the 23rd of September. I'd like to begin with the Kaurna acknowledgement. City of Prospect acknowledges that we are on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains region, and we respect elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land, and we acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. And now the Council Pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Item 2 on the agenda, on leave there are nil. Item 3, we have an apology from Councillor Lillian Hollett, and hopefully she's enjoying her break. Item 4 on the agenda, indication of intention to declare a conflict of interest. Is anyone indicating that they intend to? Councillor Barnett,
yes,
item 10.3.
General conflict and general.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, moving on. Item 5.
Sorry, a quick question. I know we didn't capture vision last council meeting. I'm just wondering, is the council meeting being recorded and distributed through visually?
Recorded. Do we have any spies out there who can send us a thumbs up?
Thank you.
Anyone, got anyone at home watching along?
Bruce, I know it. I'm on to it.
Oh, okay.
Ginny?
I'll keep going. So item 5 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes from the ordinary meeting held on the 26th of August and the special meeting 16th of September. Do I have a mover? Councillor Barnett would like to speak to the motion.
Not necessary.
Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Trindwin. Don't need to speak. I'll take it that there's probably no need to sum up either, so we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, motion carried.
Mayor, I can just confirm YouTube is working. There's one watcher.
Oh,
I just logged off.
Oh, there's two. It's Chris and myself.
Item 6 on the agenda, public question time. Are there any questions from members of the public? Doesn't look like it, so we'll move on to item 7. Petitions there are nil. Item 8, 2 deputations tonight, which is great to see. I'd like to invite Reb Rowe from the Adelaide Bike Kitchen to come up for a deputation. So just confirming name and I believe suburb for the purposes of the minutes.
Yeah, my name is Reb Rowe. I'm in Kilburn.
So you have got 5 minutes, Reb, and at the 4-minute mark I'll give you a 1 minute warning. I won't be selling you any additional time, it's very expensive.
Yep.
So we'll stick to 5 minutes. You don't have to use all 5 minutes as well. And then there may be questions from the elected members after that.
Great.
So over to you now.
Thank you. So thank you for having me and my collective. Adelaide Bike Kitchen, which I call ABK, is an independent volunteer-run community bike collective. we help people learn how to fix their own bikes in a supportive, affordable and fun way. We build social ties and are a destination for a diverse demographic, most notably those who rely on their bikes for transport and experience financial hardship, but also young people, athletes, parents, retirees, visitors and new arrivals to our city, all who are looking to get transport while they're here. We provide low-cost, high-value services to cyclists and the wider community, as well as provide a place for people to volunteer and contribute to the community. They help others and we also meet up. Each year, ABK holds 125 public workshops run by 50 volunteers for our 70 members, but also the members of the public, fixing almost 4,000 bikes a year. We do this to keep people riding, to reduce carbon emissions, to save riders and infrastructure builders like you guys money, and to save bikes from becoming trash. ABK also represents an essential third place for the community. We currently occupy a Renewal SA building for cheap rent, which enables us to remain open. And after 13 excellent years in that building in Bowden, Bike Kitchen has to move out by the 31st of January next year. We have been working with City of Charles Sturt and Renewal SA to explore ways of remaining in Bowden. However, we now see the pressure of the looming deadline creeping up and the real and unfortunate likelihood that we will need to close. We've received approximately 1,800 signatures on our petition, where community are asking decision makers to support us to relocate. We received a promise of support from Premier Malinauskas to ensure Bike Kitchen finds a new home. However, Renewal SA's assistance, who are tasked by the Premier with finding us a new home, has been limited in efficacy at the moment. And this is why I'm presenting to you this evening, because we continue to explore all avenues in an attempt to find an option for Bike Kitchen. And to do our bit, not just thinking that government will come to us, our rescue. Do our bit towards the issue. The value statement, which was shared, contains critical information about ABK and what features we need in a new building to keep our workshops rolling. Over the 13 years that we spent in Bowden, we've become ingrained in the community. The City of Charles Sturt recently undertook community consultation as part of the Bowden Urban Village Precinct Review. And community feedback through that identified a clear desire for Bike Kitchen to remain in Bowden, but also that Bike Kitchen is a key part of what is working in that precinct. We know that the work that we do helps people to try as well as continue with bike riding as a form of active transport. We help build community ties for young and old, and regardless of background or context. We help to loosen the grip that the private vehicle has on our streets, community and spaces. Adelaide is the 8th least affordable major city in the world. We're actually tied with San Francisco. So the only way that grassroots community organisations can provide their important services is through secure access to affordable spaces. We've been providing an essential service to our community, helping to achieve strategic values and objectives for 13 years. And we've done this quietly, consistently, and with professionalism and real care. We do a fantastic job on the smell of an oily rag, and we have an enviable reputation with fantastic results. We'd be good for your council, and we just want to continue to keep doing our work, really. Finding a place to relocate to on a long-term basis is key for us. We actually spoke with your team back in 2016 when we were in a similar position. And the purpose of my deputation tonight is really... Cool, thank you. The purpose of tonight is to raise with you again that that we still exist and that we're still reliant on cheap rent, and that we do see Bike Kitchen and Prospect still being a good fit if possible. So I would like to ask City of Prospect, but also you as individuals, as councillors here, because you might have connections and networks. The following questions. How can the City of Prospect assist and support Bike Kitchen to find a permanent workshop location or a meanwhile place in the meantime? What contacts and networks do you personally have as councillors with connections who may be interested in partnering with Bike Kitchen? Do you know of any buildings, vacant land or underutilised spaces that we could explore? And potentially what funding mechanisms exist? And finally, is there a way for council to follow up with me from this deputation? And that's it. To the minutes.
Thanks very much, Red. I'll open up for any questions from elected members.
Councillor Gray.
Yeah, thanks, Reb. And I read the information that was sent
Thank you.
to us. And my contacts out in the community have nothing but good words for your
Oh,
group.
that's lovely. Cool.
You've come to us. Is there something off the top of you or your group's head that you've scouted around and perhaps found anything that could be a possibility?
The challenge is that there are sheds and buildings that exist out there that we ride past, but we don't know how to get in contact. We assume that they're privately owned. So in terms of council buildings, we haven't scoped anything that we think, oh, we could definitely move into that. And I understand that space is a premium. We do work really well with other groups, and I know sometimes other groups don't like sharing, but I do want to flag that we would be open to that. So one thing that we have been looking at with the City of Charles Sturt, which is proving difficult for different reasons, but a croquet club in Renown Park, I believe it is, or Regency Park, have an old green that they don't use. And so what we're thinking about is potentially we could look at a temporary situation with maybe some shipping containers. So we're really looking at all aspects of, could we find a temporary place to exist and continue our workshops while we work with state government to receive funding for a more permanent location. And then also access to people or contact with people who own buildings that we can't really see a way of getting hold of them at the moment. Yeah, because there's lots of sheds that are out there and workshops, but we don't know who to contact. Yeah, so I guess if you and your staff have established relationships and connections with landholders, that would be really helpful for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your deputation. I was just sitting here thinking, I'm sure I've heard from you before, and you've answered my question, 2016.
Yeah, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's a bit scary for both of us. Just two questions. One is, have you operated in Prospect before? Because I just had in the back of my mind that you were here somewhere, maybe before Bowden, but obviously not. Maybe.
No.
Okay. The second question is, in the information you sent to us beforehand, you talked about you get the occasional grant, but beyond that, how do you fund yourself?
It really is because we have cheap rent from Renewal SA. So everything that what we do is we receive donations of bikes and money. We refurbish those bikes and we sell the parts, and that gives us income. We also have courses which are of varying sort of degrees of difficulty. We've got some easy ones and some really intense advanced ones, and they give us income. And we also have memberships as well. So the memberships and a nightly $5 per hour for using the space. The challenge is that one of our main missions is to remain affordable. And so we probably could, if we made the memberships really expensive and made the nightly fee more expensive, we'd make more money and could probably afford a commercial rent. But it's very difficult for us because we know we'd be putting up a really difficult barrier for people to actually access the service that they need. So yeah, we're in a bit of a pickle in terms of that. And just the expense of commercial rent at the moment is really high. We found out that storage containers or storage facilities are really popular at the moment. And so when people have a latent underutilised shed, it's easy for them to either convert that into car parking or storage facilities, and that's the perfect place for us to go to. So yeah, demand and competition is a challenge.
And my last question, and this is not a trick question, but what other irons do you have in the fire at the moment apart from talking to us? Are you talking to other councils as well?
Yeah, so I've done deputations to Charles Sturt, West Torrens, so we've got a few things bubbling through there. We've had some feedback, which is just we don't have anything. You might need to knock on the doors of the philanthropic networks in Adelaide. So we're just about to start that. We do have a meeting with Premier Malinauskas on the 14th of October. I'm not really sure what will be coming of that. It might just be a different focus. So we have been working with Renewal SA, and they have a job to do for our whole state, and they have quite a focus. Being a landlord for a bike kitchen is not part of their focus. So working with them has been good but difficult because of that structural challenge, and so they don't really have very many places that they can easily pop us into, particularly in Bowden. But I am challenging them to think a bit further out. Just, they've got spaces in Port Adelaide Enfield, so I've spoken with the mayor out there. But again, that's quite a separation from. We'd like to be as close to the city as possible. So we've got a few plates spinning, but they're not really amounting to much.
Thank you so much for your deputation.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Councillor?
My first question was around funding and income, but that's been answered.
Oh, yeah.
The second question is, how many members do you have of people living or working in Prospect?
That's a very good question. We don't collect that data. So we have been, we've been developing a survey to go out to everyone who's been to Bike Kitchen, because we get people to sign in, and that's more of a duty of care point of view. So we have contacts for everyone who's been to Bike Kitchen, but we don't collect that much data about them. So we are about to go out to our we're about to go out to our members and visitors and ask them, where do you live, and a whole bunch of questions, just to get a bit of that information. So I'm sorry I don't have that info at the moment.
Just one from me. Have you spoken to Mayor Hewitson over in Unley? He's a mad cyclist.
He is a mad cyclist. We haven't, but yeah, we could.
I think this is the sort of thing that he would get. I can't speak on his behalf, but
Sort of get
he's
behind.
a massive advocate for cycling.
That's true. We were just talking as a group about whether there's some strange corner in the back of the Wavell Showgrounds that we could fit into. So
Yeah.
that might work out to be there.
So, Councillor Rebecca.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and certainly we want to see more cycling in the city of Prospect. We're very encouraging of promoting the Gora Greenway.
Yeah.
Now there's a new $50 million Cooper's Experience Centre
Yes.
that connects, and I think that connecting to Bowden Brompton and into the town is a really good tourist experience. I'd be really interested to see how maybe, with tourism could be something along that bikeway could be something. And also, and this is probably sacrilege, with Bike Kitchen, are you associated with any electric bikes as well to broaden the scope of use?
Definitely not sacrilege. We are
Right.
fully supportive of
Okay.
e-bikes. Anything that keeps people riding bikes
Okay.
are good. We have a slight work health and safety issue because they're so heavy and we have to lift them up. So the cost of a wrap to lift for a bike stand to lift an e-bike is currently cost prohibitive for us at the moment. But we get e-bikers coming in, and
Okay.
they're essentially bikes. We can work on the bikey bits, but often when you start fiddling with the electric bits, it voids the warranty. So yeah, we welcome all wheels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
If there's no further questions, thanks once again, and all the best.
Yes, thank you. Oh, one other thing, we are having an open night on the 8th of October. I will send an invite, but it's one thing to hear me talk about Bike Kitchen because I'm biased and I love it, but it's another to see it, so I would welcome you to come along. I've invited the other council elected members as well, so we'll be there from 6 to 8 o'clock. You're welcome to come and see the workshops. Thank you everyone, thanks for your time.
Okay, item 8.2, I'd like to invite Nick Papadopoulos to come up to present. So Nick, say your name and suburb for the purpose.
Nick Papadopoulos, Prospect.
And you've got 5 minutes. I'll give you a warning at 4 minutes. And then once you're done, there may be some questions from the elected members. So
We've got a slide
You've got a
there, so
presentation.
if you can go to the next, just skip the next one. So my name's Nick Papadopoulos. We're talking about 440 Regency Road. Just the bottleneck is about 5 metres from the dwelling. So when we're looking at a risk, there's a lot of proposals, there's a lot of information requested. What I didn't see was any risk. What are the risk mitigation? What are the risks? When you actually propose something, You say these are the risks, and you set funding around. So there's $120,000 that's been set. What is that made up of? Is that to mitigate all the risks that are there? We don't know. So you would have seen in the minutes that there would have been a list of items and costs. They just arranged saying, what if this risk happens? What if that risk happens? So none of these risks seem to be written. There's no risk profile. What does that mean? The other items that we're not sure of is obviously when you look at the tenants, it is rented at the moment. So if you do a move, is there a cost associated with the tenants? What happens in that week? Now there's a few people, a few houses. Has that been considered? So what I'm kind of seeking is a bit of transparency, accountability, and fairness. The other thing which I want to make sure of is we've engaged, Sam's engaged with us. This has been ongoing apparently from last year. We've only been asked for the last month or so. There was a meeting set on the 12th. Mum broke her arm, which young Melanie was informed. So that meeting had to be cancelled. So she actually broke her around here. So we take her to the doctors. So it wasn't us going, we don't want to meet. It was medically. So it seems like there's a bit of information which is actually not correct. And the minutes need to be updated because that's actually not fair. Can we go to the next slide, please? So talking about lack of consultation. So this has been ongoing for about 12 months. I understand the Adelaide Plant Recovery has been reached out to. If you actually look on their website, I think around April, there's actually got a guy on our property. He's got a bit of a video saying how he's going to move it. So that's actually quite interesting that this was done last year, and he's actually put up video around April. I've got the links there as well. If anyone wants, I can provide that information. So it's actually quite interesting. We're requesting some information to work out what's going on. We only got the minutes on the 29th of August. I sent an email, a follow-up on the 12th, asking for additional information around engineering, around the risk profile to get a bit more information. Got a reply at 4:57 saying, sorry, the report's already written, unfortunately, and come to the meeting. So that's why I'm here. So thank you. And then obviously, the 12th, there was a meeting that was set for the 12th of September. Mum broke her arm, so that had to get done. Had to get cancelled. So that's a bit of a mischaracterisation and non-cooperation. It's a bit of a lie, and I don't appreciate that because that actually shows that we're not trying to cooperate, when in fact we were. Next slide, please. So transparency in reports. So I guess what I'm looking for is, when was the proposed plan or work to move the tree undertaken? Have engineering or structural reports been undertaken? Who attended the property and when? Why was I informed late? Why not earlier? Why was a tree removalist report not being disclosed? So there's a report. Obviously there is. Why hasn't that been disclosed? I'm pretty sure the members would like to see it. Actually say what it is and how it is. Please go to the next slide. Bit of history. So this was under the Blair Athol Council. You can see a bit of a history. That's the tree around 1990 to 2000. So you can see there's a bit on there. And that just gives a bit of the significance of the tree. Please go to the next slide. Got a bit of a timeline. So in 1999-2000, we actually wanted to remove the tree. Council said no because it's an important tree. It's been on Burke's backyard, significant tree. We will move power points. We will block one lane. This tree is significant. It's that important. We actually had someone who wanted to buy it for $30,000 back then when it was a smaller tree. And then you can see a bit of a timeline right through to June, July, August, September. So that just kind of shows a bit on there. So I guess one of the options that was missed out of your 4 options was, what about a detailed analysis risk assessment to be provided and completed with all the details so that actually can inform you guys to make a proper decision. Next slide, please. This is the company that did the Adelaide Plant Recovery. So it's Plant P is the guy that he calls himself. That's just a bit of information from his website. If you want the website, just let me know and I'll provide it to you. But ultimately, that tells you how he's planning to do it. Next slide. Key risks and costs. What makes up the 120K? Then we start looking at it. Some of these items here, they're just a bit of range. A minute? Okay, so when we start looking at it, foundation damage, don't know. If you do an analysis and you say that the roots haven't gone that far, it would be 0 risk. We don't know. So when you kind of put a proposal saying, this is what it's going to cost, you need to put in the risk and say, this is the range of a risk. could be zero, could be more. Any services disruptions? What about hazards? We're talking about a tree. What about human people? There are people who are renting, there are other people who are living next door. What does that mean? Next slide, please. Conflict of interest. How was this even raised? I understand Jason, I'm not sure if Jason's in the room. Jason, you live 2 doors down, is that right? So you raised it last year, I'm gathering? No? Then why would the council have engaged with the plant place last year? I know they have. So someone's actually raised it with the plant company last year. Seems a bit of a conflict of interest, even if it's perceived. So I noticed that there was no conflict of interest raised today. Jason probably should have said he's got a conflict of interest, being that it's 2 doors down. And I know what Jason told me. When I met him before he came on the council, he wanted the tree moved because when it reverses, it blocks his view. Next slide, please. So I guess the risks. We've got transparency, responsibility, procedural fairness. It's just getting all the release of all that information I've mentioned so we can actually help us see what it is and see the councillors. Next slide, please.
Next slide, the time's finished.
Oh, I was going to say, can I finish up the recommendation? So I guess the recommendation is it's not just about preserving the tree, it's also about the safety, the integrity and the fairness. And I guess the council, when they look at it, provide transparency. Accept full responsibility, ensure if anything affects owners or other people, they're involved. And I guess there probably is a new recommendation. They probably should look at considering all risks, because I don't think it's actually being considered, and see what else is there when you look at the recommendations. And that's all I've got. So, any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Deputy? That's nice.
Not an accusation, Nick.
It's not an accusation. It's a
False statements, but I'm going to ask a question.
It's a perceived
Did you
conflict.
read the motion for the 25th of June?
I read through it, yes.
So you notice on the motion actually requests everything that you've requested there.
And when we asked for that information, and all we got was one document.
You notice on that motion, it basically requested that we start the investigations and we arrange a meeting with you guys to discuss it. That's all we've been trying to do.
Okay. So let me ask the question again. It was engaged with Plant Pete, I think that's the name he goes by. He was engaged last year. He's actually been, no, I don't know who's engaged with them.
The motion was from the 25th of June after an elderly person fell onto the road after trying to get their mobility scooter past the tree. That's what raised the motion. So I'm just asking whether you read the motion to state that everything, all the questions you've raised tonight were addressed in the motion, just to arrange a meeting with you guys to start that process.
Well, like we said, it says we've been disruptive when we haven't. One broke around. I think that's actually no. And when you read that, and if you read the minutes,
The second meeting that was planned?
that was the second meeting.
That was the first meeting.
There wasn't a second one. That was on the 12th.
We were told that it was postponed to 2 weeks later.
The 12th.
I don't have the dates.
Yeah, it was the 12th. And mum broke around.
I'm just going to ask you questions. There was one meeting was planned for 5:30 on the Friday that Councillor Nguyen and I were invited to. We were then called about an hour before the meeting, so it's been cancelled. It's been postponed for two weeks' time. That meeting was then also cancelled.
That was as in.
Councillor Nguyen might have an idea. I don't have the exact dates.
That was the 12th of September.
2 weeks apart.
Or what's the date today?
So maybe the first meeting was 2 weeks before that. Maybe the first meeting was the end of August.
Okay, and that was when we asked for additional information before we had the meeting. And
I didn't get the
I'm
reasons
informing
why.
you. Okay.
I was just told it was cancelled.
Alright, so I'm informing you. So if you haven't been informed, we had asked for additional information for that meeting on the 12th. It didn't come through. And then on the 12th, all we got were the minutes or the motion from the previous meeting. That's it. And then mum broke around. That's it. So if you've got have you got the additional engineering reports or anything else, or the?
Sorry, just to reinforce, we haven't asked for any engineering reports yet. We've asked, if you read the motion, which for permission from the Mayor, we've just asked for engage with the owners to arrange a meeting with the ward councillors, being Councillor Nguyen and myself, to seek an industry report to understand the relevant considerations necessary, and then to report back to council. That was what we requested as part of the motion.
So what's saying industry report? What do you mean by that?
As an artist report.
Okay.
So that we can find out whether it can or can't be removed. We don't have that information. That's all we've requested.
Okay, so you haven't seen the Arborist report yet?
I've seen nothing.
Okay, so there is an
We
Arborist report.
requested a report to come back to us by the 30th of September.
So there must be an Arborist report because I can probably tell you there probably is because there's a price. Where did that price come from? Wouldn't have been thin air, maybe? Or someone's provided that price. What does that price come from?
As I say, Nick, if you read the motion, we asked for 3 things there. And the first thing was to arrange a meeting with you guys to have an open discussion.
Well, unfortunately, the last time I broke my arm, so.
So
Hang on a second. Last I checked, I was the mayor, so
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Go for it.
I might call this right now. Actually, I'm not really appreciating your attitude, so you can do it the right way and show respect to the chamber, or I'll call it and we can finish up. So, which one is it? Which one is it?
Well, you're calling it, so.
So you'll show respect to the chamber
Yes, of
and do
course.
things the right way. Thank you. Just confirming that. Okay, Councillor Becker.
So I was putting my hand up to thank the deputy for his deputation. It's just a question by way of process. So obviously there's a lot of information tonight, a lot of things being said or heard or whatever, and we're not casting aspersions of what's right or wrong or whatever. But if there's a genuine desire by the chamber to hear more information, be that in confidence or in public, what would be the way to, if we didn't vote for the motion tonight, that would in effect defer it? Would that be correct?
Well, it depends. If it doesn't get a mover and a seconder, then it's going to lay on the table. But looking at the motion, it's doing what the logical next step is, and that is meeting to assess the scenario, calling for an arborist report, which, unless someone can produce an arborist report now, I assume hasn't been done,
yep,
regardless of what might be said. And without the arborist report, we can't make a decision. So that's what this motion requests, and then that will come back to us as a report with recommendations, no doubt. There's further investigation proposed to be undertaken, and then we'll have all the information from reliable sources that we need in order to make a decision.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of how it will unfold. Any further questions? Councillor Gray.
Thank you. I've just got 2. My first question is, what do you want done to the tree?
I wanted to move in 1999.
We're talking
Well,
about
yeah.
2025.
I don't know. I'd like to meet with the guys, like we said, but unfortunately, the important part is getting all the information, so we can actually see what it is. What is it possible? Isn't it possible?
So you haven't quite answered the question about what you want. I'm asking you not what we want, what you want.
To actually make a decision, I need to actually have more information.
Okay, that's fair. Second question was, I think your proposition, and I flipped through too quick so I can't remember exactly the dates, but your proposition was that this has been discussed over a year ago.
I believe it has.
Can you just remind me why you think that's the case? Because that's not my understanding.
Okay, well I went to look at moving the tree, and when I spoke to one of the guys, he said the council's already engaged with us, and I said when? He said it last year. So
when did you speak to that?
probably around May, June. Oh, not even July, but whenever it was when I spoke to them.
This year?
This year. And they said to me that the council's already engaged, and he's already produced two reports.
Can I just ask the CEO whether he's aware of this engagement and reports?
I'd have to take it on notice. No, I'm not. But I'd have to take it on notice. It is possible, members. Obviously, it does feel like that's about the time we were doing our condition assessment on footpaths. It's possible through the process some connections or engagements were made as part of the asset management process, but I don't know for sure. Mr. Wellington, do you have any sense of how, why and when that might have happened?
So through the chair, I believe that staff reached out to, I've forgotten his name, sorry, Pete, the arborist about a year ago to have some very high level discussions about the tree, because there had been some discussions about it. He off his own back went to your site and made a video. We weren't involved in that, we did not procure him to do that, and that's why the video exists.
So, as far as we know, there's no report that's been produced.
Mr. Wellington, no report?
Through the chair, we have no report from the result of that.
Anything else, Councillor Green?
No, that's all, thank you.
Any further questions from the floor? If not, I'll thank the Deputy.
No, I apologise.
All right. Okay, moving on. Item 9. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor De Backer, you look over in your direction.
Oh, as always. Right. And look, and this is because it's timely. So I was reading the paper the other day, and it's regards to a recent. Sorry, I was thinking about trees. Is the changing of the definition of retirement villages to essential infrastructure. So it was a question, and you may not be able to answer it tonight, but I understand I can move to get the answer in minutes or to the next meeting. But it's quite timely. So it's just through the chair to the director in regards to planning, the change of retirement villages as essential infrastructure. How does that change the approval process, the notification process, heights, and heritage?
So, is that something that the director can answer, or
if I can just have one moment. Notification process.
Yep.
Approval process.
Yep.
Heights. What was the fourth thing?
Heritage.
Heritage.
Yep.
Protection. Mr. Pearce, are you able to answer that, or will it be taken on notice?
Look, through the chair, I'd like to take it on notice, so I'm trying to digest the question, let alone give the answer.
If you don't mind, Council will take that on notice.
So Planning, Development and Infrastructure, General Essential Infrastructure and State Development Agency Amendment Regulations 2025. So it was released on the 11th of September, and it's South Australian Government Gazette, number 52, page 3806.
We will endeavour to get you an answer as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Backer. Any further questions without notice? If not, we'll move on to reports for decision. Item 10.1, Queensland Bottle Tree 440 Regency Road. There's a recommendation on page 4. Would anyone like to move that motion? I'll try that again. Would anyone like to move the motion on page 4? Councillor Nelson.
Someone else might put their hand up, but I'll have a crack. So, obviously, I do have my notes here. So, what's transpired is obviously very disappointing. It seems to be a lack of communication. He said, she said. The motion was pretty simple, to request a meeting with the owners and to undertake investigations to bring that back to council for a report. As we haven't had that, I just want to start by saying that safety needs to be our number one priority when considering the location of this tree. I remind the members the reason this motion came about was in early June. A local resident was on a mobility scooter, had trouble navigating between the tree and the stubby pole, overturned the scooter and fell onto the road. Fortunately, on this occasion, there was no damage, there were no injuries, but it is an ongoing issue with school children walking past the tree. In recent times, we have had the pavers around the tree repaired, and we have had that. So as much as I don't want to kick this down the road, unfortunately, through lack of all the information, I see the motion as it's written as probably the best way forward, and that is to relocate the stubby pole. To kick this down the road further is still not good for future councils. It's still not going to give us an ideal resolve, but I don't know how long we're going to have before resolve is, and that it's an issue now. It's a safety issue now for both mobility scooters, for students, for people. So at the moment, I'm happy with the way the recommendation has been written by the executive, and that is to relocate the stubby pole.
Thank you. Councillor Nelson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nguyen.
Reading through the report, I feel that the options presented to us of the 4, moving the stubby pole would be sensible and it would make a lot of sense. I think for me the footpath is really narrow, and which is a huge problem for people who use a pram or walking aid, wheelchair, or just even two people or students walking side by side. So that's really an access issue, and I think that should be the primary issue for me. Moving the stubby pole will be the cost estimate of that will be way cheaper than relocating the tree. Obviously, this is some information about the life of the tree. The arborist report would be really good, but immediately to see an effect, I think that option would be the better one. To move the tree, to relocate it, it's going to be very complex and risky and expensive. So I think for the time being, I think this option would give us the best of both worlds. We're protecting the tree, keeping it as it is, and we're making the footpaths safer and more accessible for our community. So as the report reads, I'm in favour of option 2, to relocate the stubby pole.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion, any points that haven't already been raised? Councillor De Backer and Councillor Brook.
Look, just in relation to point 4, does not support further consideration of Queensland Rock Tree's potential relocation. I'm probably not going to vote for that one, only because if we're thinking about the ratepayer and DDA compliance, we need to make the decision that's best. And if it comes back subsequently that there is a better option, I'd like to keep that on the table. So though I think it's great to go and get the costing for the stubby pole moved, it may actually be like an urban planning kind of exercise, or it could be a relocation exercise. We really don't know. So I think just to rule it out, I won't be supporting that, but the other ones I do.
So I haven't been asked to take it in parts.
Well, I'm going to ask you to take it in parts.
Okay. Happy to take it in parts. I had Councillor Gruder and Councillor Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm never a fan of getting rid of trees, and I'm not suggesting this one should be gotten rid of, but I'm struggling with the notion of relocating the stubby pole, purely on the basis that in the report you'll see 2 photos 15 years apart. You can see the growth of the tree. So there's going to be another 9 people sitting around this chamber in 15 years' time saying, oh, they moved the stubby pole by a metre, now we've still got a problem because the footpath's compromised. So the footpath is compromised. Well, in fact, it's not compromised now, according to the report. It is a legal width, although looking at the condition of it, there's probably some work we could do to make it safer, particularly for the person that Councillor Nelson was referring to earlier. But I just think we are absolutely kicking this down the path if we just say move the stubby pole. And $40,000 is, it's not material from a budget perspective, but it's still, it's a couple of footpaths, or it's a bit more of a gutter, or it's a bit more of a road, or it's another 20 books, whatever it is. I just think it's better ways we can spend $40,000. So similar to Councillor Becker, I'd ask, well, we're taking in parts, so there'll be some parts I'll support and some parts I won't. But I think the other thing for me is looking at the website of Adelaide Plant Recovery. They do quite clearly state in there, so as I find it again, in collaboration with the City of Prospect, we've been tasked for developing a proposal for relocating an iconic Queensland model tree on Regency Road. So if that is not true, and I will save us the angst of doing an amendment, it would be for administration to contact them tonight to say if it's not true, and we'll take that on notice, but if it's not true, he should probably not refer to us in that way, that we're working in partnership to move the tree. Now, not to say that some time we might not, we might do it, and that's fine, but at this stage it sounds like we're not doing it. So I would, so I'm not going to move that as an amendment, but I think people have heard that would be my view on that, and take that as you wish. I think too that ultimately this tree is on private land, and so there will ultimately be a responsibility for the private owner to deal with this if it's impinging on public infrastructure, which is the road. Notwithstanding what has happened in the past or what will happen in the future, there's still responsibility of the private business owner. So if this was a gum tree or another type of tree or a vehicle leaning out to the footpath constantly, we would hold the property owner responsible. So yeah, I can't support it in its current form because I don't support the removing of the stubby pole until we know more about what we need to know. But I'm concerned that comment is on website, because as the deputy has noted, you know, if I read that, I would probably think, yes, council are engaged with this organisation, and if we're not, it should reflect that way. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Blatter.
Yes, look, this is actually quite a complicated matter, and you know, as we've noted in the report, I mean, to my mind, I'm really just only wanting at this stage to move number one. Council having considered item 10.1, Queensland Laboratory for receives and notes the report, because there are still, to my mind, questions, and I don't want to go and be spending upwards of $40,000 or more to move a scope pole when it's been pointed out. If I can just see this bottle tree growing even bigger and bigger and bigger. Anyway, the other point is that it is on private property, and I think perhaps the owner could find out some information about it being a significant tree, and although removal is discouraged by legislation until all other options are exhausted and criteria for removal are met, you know, I'm just thinking if the property owner is stating that, you know, he does want it, or they would like to see it removed, but on the other hand, I don't want council to be going through a whole lot of again, spending ratepayers' money over this. I think there's room somewhere in here that it's up to the. I understand the minister has final say or things said and done about the significance tree. So I don't know if there's some case that can be put because of all this and what's happened, and you know, a whole lot of expensive things have been considered. The other complicated matter is that I rarely go against the Prospect Local History Group, but if we pop heritage or local heritage or protection or something, that further complicates things even more. So I would just like to, at this stage, only vote for number one, that we actually receive it and note the report. And then I'm sure the staff have been listening and made, hopefully, notes. And we try and get a bit more common sense around this.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. We can't only vote on one part, so we'll take it in parts and then people will vote in favour of and against on each of the points.
Well, I'm just indicating I'll be voting no for the rest.
I've got Deputy Mayor Nguyen and then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, it is quite complicated and there is many factors, but the main issue I see is the risk it has to the users of the footpath. And I do agree that moving a stove pole might be a short-term fix, but it's still going to continue to be an issue, and we definitely need to do further investigation. And then having the heritage factor there as well makes it quite difficult. So I feel like we can't really make a decision without a lot of information at this point. So I agree with this.
Thank you, Councillor.
I think this would be a lot simpler decision if it wasn't on Regency Road. Somebody drives up and down Regency Road twice a day, and I quite often sit in traffic looking at this tree and the Stovey pole. And it is a busy road. If this was a back street, we would have, we could take a lot more time to think about this. But it's Regency Road. If someone does go over and fall over, it's highly likely that they're going to get hit by some sort of transport. So what we have is an immediate risk, and if we have a path forward to actually alleviate that immediate risk, which is $40,000 to move a Stovey pole, and in the short term, while we work out what else to do with the tree, that we can alleviate that immediate risk, I think we have a duty of care to reduce risk. If we don't move that Stobie pole, we are not reducing the risk by any measure. We move the Stobie pole, we are reducing the risk. The Stobie pole is a part of the risk. The tree is also part of the risk. We can do one part, and then we can work out what we do with the tree later. By moving the Stobie pole, we at least remove a part of that risk, which I think is our duty of care if we have the facility to do it. As I said, if this was a back street in Prospect, it wouldn't be so much of it. There wouldn't be urgency. But I believe there is urgency. If someone comes a gutser, beautiful Australian word, someone comes a gutser there tomorrow and goes out onto the road after we voted against doing something about it, we will look like, you know, we are complicit to that. So I think it is in our interest and it is our duty of care as councillors to do what we can to reduce risk. And if that is a short-term solution and the tree, then we'll have to deal with the tree later. If we can do something to release that risk, I think it's in our duty to do it. $40,000 is not a lot, and it will go a long way to actually prevent something happening. I mean, I don't want to, quite often in this chamber we go, what about the children? Something could happen, something could happen. Something actually could happen here. It's a very busy road, and there is an actual, real, present danger that something could happen. I'll certainly be voting for just doing something in the short term and removing the Stobie pole.
Thank you, Councillor Stern. I think that covers everybody. So, on that basis, I'll head back to Councillor Nelson to sum up.
Yeah, I think it's a robust debate. I think when I raised this in June, I had no idea that it was going to be have this resolved. But I've actually taken a few notes while I've been listening to everyone. It's been interesting feedback. So some of the things I've taken out of that was, this tree is on private land, yet we tend to be taking responsibility or looking at how we can mitigate the risks. It is a very complex issue. I'm aware of that, but safety has to be our priority. We constantly in the chamber talk about access and inclusion. This is an ideal example of where we're not looking at it, because there is no opportunity to get a wheelchair or a mobility scooter or anything past between that tree and the Stobie pole, and that to me is a major concern for all involved. Following on from Councillor Back, I do support not carrying clause 4. This will then allow us to continue to investigate the relocation of the tree through hopefully some good conversations and reports. But again, I'll finish that with the matter for safety, we need to make the footpath a clear path, and we can mitigate our risk by relocating the Stobie pole as a short-term option, buying us more time while we continue to investigate a long-term solution.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. So we'll take it in parts. So we'll take it in parts and we'll go slow for our taker. Part 1, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Part 2, all those in favour? All those against? Motion carried. Part 3, all those in favour? All those against? Not carried.
Division. Lost. That's what you want.
So if you voted in favour of that motion, please stand.
Hopefully the minutes notice the other mark this time.
Did you get confused last time?
That's right.
Mark G is already pre-filled. Undo that. Thank you. Part 4, all those in favour?
This is a double negative.
Against?
Hang on. It's a double negative.
Part 4, all those in favour? I'm not supporting further consideration. So, all those in favour? All those against?
What are you going to say?
No, confusing.
No, that wasn't
There's 4,
correct. Sorry.
It's very simple. Part 4, are you in favour?
further consideration.
Are you in favour of the writings there?
Does not
So
support further consideration.
are you voting in favour of part 4, whatever the wording says? Alright. Voting in favour of part 4? Voting against part 4? Motion lost. Call a division.
Only if he tells me.
Part 5, all those in favour?
Find out.
Against? I haven't seen anyone hands raised. Do it again. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Part 6, all those in favour?
That's just meeting.
Against? Motion carried. Bit of a mixed bag there. Thanks everybody, that was an interesting conversation. Item 10.2, Environmental Sustainability Strategy and Action Plan. Recommendations on page 12. Do I have a mover? Do I have a mover? Councillor Stanley. Councillor Barnett, try to speak to the motion.
So, am I moving it or seconding it?
You're moving it.
I'm now moving it.
It
All
comes
right,
in.
thank you. Yes, well, I think it's one of our main planks in our strategic planning, and that you know, we really need to continue doing this, and let's just get on and do it as suggested in part 2.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Do I have a second? Councillor Stanley.
Any direction, any movement that we can make in the direction of sustainability is good movement. It's slow and steady, but we'll get there eventually. I think we have stalled over the last few years, but I'm glad to see that we are back on the bike and pedalling.
Thank you. Any further discussion, any points that haven't been raised? Only one small thing from my perspective from the chair. So strategy and action is great, but I'd like to see some goals and some targets set as well, because it's all well and good to have strategy and actions. They're important, but I think we need something as a guiding set of outcomes that we can measure, because that's typically where good strategy sits and good action plans sit. So I'm assuming that when we go out to the market for a qualified consultant, then that would be part of the scope. So I just wanted to make that point. Back to you, Councillor Barnett, unless there's anybody else who's got anything else to add. No, Councillor Barnett.
No, I think it's all there in the report, so I just commend it to council.
Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 10.3, Prospect Lifestyle Precinct Land Revocation and CIMP Process. Recommendations on page 17. Do I have a mover?
I have a comment.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, so I declare a general conflict of interest as I'm a member of both Prospect, are a sub-branch and Prospect Local History Group, mainly occasionally undertakes activities at the Prospect Air Raid Shelter. I'm not an office holder of the two community groups, therefore I'm not regarded as having a conflict of interest. And I'm not an office holder, so in the interest of being transparent and accountable, I would declare a general conflict of interest. I will stay in the room, take part in the debate and vote on the item.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Okay, so do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Nelson.
Sure. So we've discussed this matter in length in various workshops and previous meetings. This is clearly the next step in the roadmap and is in line with the endorsed master plan. A couple of questions that I will raise though for the report. Right, I note in point 1.2.1, which is on page 30 of the agenda, outlines that the consultation period will run for 4 weeks, which we all agreed. But then it uses the wording despite the policy recommending 4 to 6 weeks.
Do my work for me.
Sorry. I do not recall this being provided with that policy guideline during our workshops, but the discussion, to my recollection, was that we had to have a minimum time frame of 21 days, and we were more comfortable making it 28 days. I believe that should be noted in the report that that's what we were told. I don't recall ever receiving a 4 to 6 week guideline recommendation.
So, question.
That's the question.
CO.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we did advise council of this. It was part of the debate at the time. We made it very clear to council that our council policy goes far beyond the legislative requirement for almost all forms of consultation that we undertake as a council. And that is something that was discussed in workshops and also was included in the last report. And I do recall it was debated on the floor of council at the time. However, you are correct. The legislative requirement in relation to a community land revocation is a minimum of 21 days. Having provided the advice that the policy requires 6 weeks minimum, the council report that I believe was provided in July, Ms. Taylor, July, discussed the possibility of reducing not only this process but all future processes to essentially a legislative minimum in order, well, essentially a recognition of the fact that we've already consulted twice at length with the community on their desires for the future of the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct, and acknowledging the fact that even from that minimum, council were minded to increase the minimum levels of consultation, as they have done in this case, from 21 to 28 days. And in addition to that, there's likely to be an increase on the minimum as well, and certainly in terms of the service level in relation to phase 4 consultation for the code amendment in January, February, March of next year. So I'm getting some nods from other members that seem to recall that discussion, but that's definitely my recollection. For a more detailed response, of course, I need to go back and check the papers, but I do recall it being an issue that was debated at the time.
Just it wasn't my recollection, so that's fine. I think my recommendation, just a statement there would be, if we're going to say that our guidelines say 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to do 28 days, then we should also put in that our legislative timeline is only 21 days and we're choosing to do 28 days. The recommendation part of your slight amendments.
Yep.
I further note that point 3.6.1 on page 41 of the agenda, I do recall we discussed through the process that there is immense community value and the precinct will aid in Prospect's continued financial sustainability, but they weren't changed, they still remained at zeros. Again, I might have missed that one, but I thought we did decide to include a couple of extra ticks there due to the value that we're coming off at and the financial stability. But apart from that, I think it's obviously something that we've discussed in length and is simply the next part in the roadmap.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. I've seconded this motion. Deputy Mayor Nguyen.
Just like Councillor Nelson has said, we have had discussions about this. We do need to move forward with this part of the plans for PLP. And I think it's great that we will also be reviewing community land management plan for other community land spaces in Prospect as well. So it's a great opportunity to revise this as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Grew.
Thank you, Mayor. Come as probably no surprise, I'm not going to support most of this motion, not because I don't support the broad ambition of the PLP. I just have concerns around a number of aspects to it, and this goes to some of it. So we'll be supporting 1 and 7, and on that note, would ask if you could take it in parts.
Have it taken.
Thank you. Councillor Nelson's stolen my thunder, which is normally the other way around. So it's a nice change. I know. But I think raises a really, really good point, and it is one that we debated in the chamber, or at least in the room, some weeks ago, that our policy does recommend 6 to 8 weeks consultation, and we chose to go 28 days, including 1 week of school holiday and a public holiday. And so I do have concerns about that. I think we've been very, very clear in my time here in the chamber around consultation with the public. We've held it sacrosanct. We think it's important because we want to engage with our community and bring them along. And I think particularly, and I agree with highlighting the fact that we're not doing what our policy says, and I think we have to do that for transparency, although I think some syntax in the sentence probably needs a little bit of working out, granting doesn't sound like the right word to begin that sentence, but that aside. I think we should be telling our community that we're not doing what our policy says, we're doing something different. We are exceeding the legislative requirements by a week, but noting that 1 week of that, I believe, is at school holidays. The second thing I just want to point out, and I'll be brief because you'll know my views. Sorry, two more things. One was around the commentary on page 39 of the report talks about, under the Act, land classifies community land subject to strict limitations. And I think it does that to protect the land for our community, and that's exactly what it's designed to do. And so I think we need to be very, very careful when we revoke any land, any community land, and we want to make sure we are bringing community along with us when we do that. I don't think this process is going to do it. I think it's going to create more angst. And I'll go back to the commentary I made a couple of meetings ago where I said if we are going out for a consultation process that will make no difference to the outcome, because this is a technical consultation, then why we need to be more upfront around that, because community are going to say, I want to have a say about the land application. And we're going to say, thank you, but we've ticked all the technical boxes, so thanks, but no thanks. Maybe that's a little harsh in terms of how I characterise that, but it will bring up some old wounds about the previous consultation processes, and I don't accept the argument we've consulted on this a lot, so therefore we can consult on this less. That's just not my perspective on it. The third comment was under 3.4.3, there's a statement there, it does not appear that government assistance was provided for the acquisition of subject land, which I think makes a legislative difference in terms of how we do land revocation and how we don't. It doesn't say that government assistance was not provided for the acquisition of land, so I just want to check the certainty of that statement. I've written lots in my life for different purposes, and often when you want to just give yourself a little bit of wriggle room, you might say things like it does not appear that government assistance was provided, as opposed to government assistance was not provided. So can I just double check our confidence level that government assistance was not provided with the acquisition of the land that we're revoking?
CEO.
I'm sorry, Councillor, I missed the first part of the sentence.
3.4.3.
3.4.3.
Yeah, first sentence.
Does not appear that government assistance was provided for the acquisition of the subject land.
I'm assuming, so just for explanation, I'm assuming that has been put in there because it's relevant to the process to revoke community land. And so if it is important enough to put it into this document, it's not a clear enough statement to say government assistance was not provided. And I just want to check, I mean, if we're 95% confident, that's probably the best we can do, and I accept that. But it was just very interesting wording, and I thought it was worth just flagging what is actually, what we're thinking.
So, through the Mayor, obviously we are certain government assistance was not provided in relation to the 142 to 148 Main Road site. Clearly, the subject area in question is the fringe along the eastern end of the oval, which was part of that late 1800s purchase. Mr. Pearce, Ms. Holmes, are you able to assist in providing any additional clarity, or is it 95%? That's the best we got.
Speak to that through the Mayor. Ms. Holmes.
Through the Chair, the terminology that's been used is because the portion that is within the Prospect Oval CT has a pretty clear, I would say 95% clear council resolution from 1907 that it was purchased and that there was no deed and trust of the land, but additional evidence outside of a singular written document from that time we don't have.
So essentially we're saying we don't know what we don't know, but what we do know is no government assistance.
Okay, no, I get that. Okay, so thank you. So look, consistent with my voting all along this process, I won't support most of it, but I think I'll probably be in the minority. But really do just want to flag and make sure that every elected member who's voting here tonight is very clear we are voting for a process around consultation that is not consistent with our policy. And we need to be, well, not me because I'm not voting for it, but those people around the table who choose to vote for it are voting for something that is not consistent with our consultation policy that we've gone out for consultation with, ironically, had community input into and agreed to around the change. Thank you.
Thank you. I might just chime in from the chair. So, look, I think I'm not arguing the point that it's not consistent with that policy, but I think it's a matter of quality over quantity, and having more days over which we consult may not necessarily give us a different outcome. What I'm comfortable with is the fact that the bare minimum that we're required from a legislation point of view is 21 days, and that's pretty much it. We're not even required to put a stake on the ground with a sign on it asking questions. So we're going for 7 days longer than the minimum required. We're letterboxing the entire council area. We're going out to the public with pop-up sessions and community opportunities for people to have their say. We've got the engagement hub involved, and that's far and away above the bare minimum that we're required from a legislation point of view. It doesn't meet the 4 to 6 week scenario, but I'm comfortable with the effort that we're going to. The second point I'd like to make is that this is a necessary part of the process to support the master plan which we've adopted. Not everyone agreed on that master plan option, but we've adopted that, and we've got to keep the outcome of this whole process at the centre of our thinking. And the outcome that we want is an environment up there that is accessible for everybody, an environment up there which provides opportunities for more members of the community to engage in all sorts of activities, an environment where people who are in a wheelchair can access it, where people can stand on grassy areas as opposed to crumbling concrete terraces built on contaminated soil. And so we've got to keep in mind that this is part of that process to do these great things for our community, which are community building and multi-generational in their impact. So without this process, we cannot unlock this opportunity in the way that we have agreed that we're going to through the master plan process. So I'm comfortable with the amount of consultation we're doing myself, and again, reinforcing it's a necessary part of the process. Councillor Becker.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions before I get into debate. Just in regards to the image on page, just trying to find the blocks of land. My apologies. If you bring up page 20, I think it is. It'd be better to see it as the satellite first. So I don't know if you can bring that up on this screen.
I think we've just got the minutes up, Councillor. So.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Yeah, it's just for the benefit of
this picture here.
Yes, that's the one. So in just regards to page 20, only recently have elected members and indeed the community been aware of the extent of the revocation of the community land proposed. So I'm just wondering, what was the reasoning behind including the state heritage listed air raid shelter when it originally wasn't considered in earlier talks? Through the chair.
We covered that during the FUG and the CRG, but just for the purposes of anyone who wasn't there at the CA.
Oh, you two ask me? Mr. Pearce, Ms. Holmes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, look, I'll speak to it briefly and then pass on through to Natasha through the chair. Look, part of the process has been strategic in that all future community benefit and upgrade, it was believed strategically that to enable scope to spend what we believe will be significant funds to create an environment around the air raid shelter, which is indeed state heritage listed, to activate it and to address that should be passed on to any future joint venture developer who would encapsulate that particular title as part of the works and the future works down the track. So there was a strategic reason for that. Natasha, do you have any further comment on that one?
Yes, through the chair, I'll add that at the CRG and the FUG meeting, one of the questions raised, very similar to yours, Alison, was what impact does revocating the land of which the air raid shelter is on and around have on its heritage significance? Under legislation, none. It does not affect its state heritage listing in any form. And the fact is that land that is revocated from community land to operational land can still function in the exact same manner that it is now. So the bearing of the land classification, if this process and the revocation was to be endorsed by both yourself and the Minister, would have no outcome on how the land is used until further discussion and decision making is made by Council at a later date in this process.
So to summarise, Mr. Pearce, Ms. Holmes, including it in the area for revocation potentially provides Council with more options in terms of how to deal with it, potentially how to redress some of its fundamental needs for renewing and investment in terms of maintenance of the heritage fabric of the building, and potentially offers opportunities for adaptive reuse as a creative outcome of this process. But obviously all of that would be a council decision at the appropriate time, depending upon any market dealings that we had across the entire precinct when the time comes.
Am I able to add something else?
Please do.
Through the chair, I'm not sure how formal this is. It also provides access opportunity for those future potential sites that will be created throughout this process. So from Wilcox, it's about access arrangement that's appropriate for future use of that site as well.
I've got another couple of questions. So in regards to on page 32, where it shows the visual of the master plan and showing point 4, which is the access way, previously that wasn't considered as commercial land. So again, for those viewing who can't see the image, it's basically what is partly on the main North Road side and access through the ticket gates going into the Oval. It seems that's been revocated, proposed to be revocated. Why is that community land, which is indicated as probably a treed or access area, put in a commercial zone and proposed to be revoked as community land?
I'll take that one. So I think, members, we've dealt with a raft of potential design opportunities across the precinct, obviously with some vagueness still attached, given that we haven't been through code amendment processes and the like. Members are aware, though, that there are literally countless options in terms of how we facilitate that public access through the site, where, for example, we offer breezeways, outdoor ground floor retail and commercial options in a potential future mixed-use environment, or indeed, if the development becomes predominantly a wholly residential or aged care units or whatever it may become, the design options are many and varied. And indeed, a future access way from Main North Road, whilst that is clearly a fundamental planning desire of the council, could go in any number of places, not just there. Revocating the entire area provides options from a design perspective for council to work through, potentially with a future partner, delivery partner, to best locate those areas. And then, of course, yes, once we know where they are, I think there's opportunity at that time to consider what land would be best classified as community, noting, of course, that the fringes of those areas may still be best classified operational to facilitate things like outdoor dining and the like. So a lot of that is still to be determined and will be. We need to respond to a later design process before we can identify exactly where that is.
I've got one more question and then I'll get into debate, which I've still got 5 minutes, I believe. So in section, same page, page 32, section 3, which refers to the car park. If you look at the proposed land to be revocated on page 35, and given the site limitation, there appears to be very few places we can actually put a car park. Again, it denotes that it's a revoking of community land for commercial activity. Does that mean people accessing the public facilities, which are the Prospect Oval and the future MRF, could potentially be charged for car parking in that location?
So, through the Mayor, it's far too early to tell, and I'm not in a position to speculate at this point.
Okay.
We have a lot. Look, revocating the land, members, does not commit you to do anything with it. It provides the opportunity for design, it provides the opportunity for different land uses, and it provides the opportunity for more free of dealing in terms of the land. Community land can be a car park. Operational land can be a car park. The area that's proposed for revocation is done so that we can have freedom of design in that area, and members can not be constrained, for example, with building envelopes or other things that require us to have that operational land classification. So it's not, the car parking requirements are not necessarily going to be defined at all by the revocation. Mr. Pearce, Ms. Holmes, anything to add?
No, that's pretty straightforward from my perspective. Just wanted to, through the chair, emphasise again the need for a full overlay to create flexibility to be able to exercise the design nuances that will arise as a result of all of the feedback and all of the further commercial opportunities that may well present in the future.
Okay, so I'm in debate now. So look, similar to other members around the table, like I appreciate that we're trying to do a commercial outcome in a location that's been neglected for many, many, many years. And I think the one question that hasn't really been asked is like, if we're going to the state for, co-partnership in some of these projects, maybe we should be asking for a larger amount so we don't have to do the density of development that is proposed. I think what there is a resistance to, certainly within the community, is the extent and the footprint. I think in the sort of creep, be it the state heritage listed area, the area that's denoted as a walking cycling path and the parking area could be isolated and retained as community land, and I think that will probably come out in consultation. It is something we have to give a lot of weight to, and I'm certainly uncomfortable about going out to consultation below our minimum. I think this is a very technical document, and it doesn't actually give guarantees or overlays of what that land management agreement is to get access from the east into the Prospect precinct. So I was actually going over our open space policy today, and what it envisaged for Memorial Gardens and Prospect Oval was, yes, to improve the amenity, yes, potential acquisition of land to improve the connection to Main North Road. And what we've seen so far hasn't actually really increased the deep planting zone or that connection. So I guess we've seen blobs on a page, but with a community land revocation, it would have really been nice to see those areas. And I actually think we're moving too fast. And look, I thank the team for trying to get the community land management plans up to speed, but I even notice around the Memorial Gardens and Prospect Oval, it doesn't even highlight dog walking. Now, we've got a really high rate of dog ownership in the city of Prospect, and I think we've got to consider those things in our community land management plans. Again, that may come back in consultation, but I think we're moving far too quickly. So similar to Councillor Groot, I won't be supporting parts of the motion, and referring back to a newspaper advertisement about the opening of the recreation grounds in 1898, Mr. Lewis, who was the chairman of the time, or like the CEO, talked about the acquisition of the land and being for all time. And that was the intention of the community land. It was certainly in the phase one, and this was not just reflected by community consultation, because again, we'll put that to one side. There's thoughts about that, but certainly even in a community reference group is increasing deep planting zones and tree canopy. And if you look at what's proposed, there's buildings right to the memorial grounds edge with no tree canopy. So if you're walking around the oval, there's very little tree canopy. So though the design is coming, wouldn't it have been great if we'd had some elements of the design, especially the connections through to Main North Road, bedded down, so when we go out to community consultation with the community land revocation, there would be confidence from the community to say, yes, I can see it, I trust it, that's already bedded down, I'll vote for that. What we see here is a wall of blue commercial designated space with a lot of uncertainty. So I think, unfortunately, if we're going out with a current consultation, we might not get the response that some elected members may expect. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any points that haven't already been covered so far in debate? Oh, I haven't got a seconder. I've got a seconder. Sorry. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Barnett.
Yes. So just refresh my memory. So on the consultation, 28 days. So if somebody was so moved to alter that to what's in our policy, what would that period be and the dates?
Well, you'd have to put forward a variation, I think.
I'm asking a question because I don't know the answer.
Okay, so CEO, might put that on here.
Well, members, this was discussed at length in July, and if I can very briefly summarise and paraphrase what was discussed at the time, there was a very clear reason why staff recommended this, and that is to maintain the roadmap timeframes that you've set forward for us, essentially working backwards from a July 2026 decision on the future of this precinct. Members, if you extend this period by 2 weeks, you put at risk a range of critical path steps over the next, in particular, 3 months leading up to a critical decision you need to make in December around the code amendment. And in particular, obviously, the decision that Council will need to take ultimately on revocation in February, which is critical to the future marketing of the site. If you wish to do that, then of course a change to the recommendation that directs an extension of the period from 28 days to whichever period you feel necessary. I think the policy minimum is 6 weeks, but I'm getting a nod from my relevant director. But I do warn you, members, that puts the critical path of this project at risk.
So I'm still not clear. So it's 28 days is 4 weeks, and so our consultation is a further 2 weeks for us. So that would bring it up from the 3rd of November to the
17th.
Sorry? 17th of November. I just think that we run the very severe risk of that is the number one point to be criticised on. And is it worth it for another 2 weeks to get us to the 17th of November? I'm just trying to work out, so what is so different between the 3rd of November and the 17th of November, ending the consultation, if I could have that answer.
I'll have a crack at that one first of all. So I believe the CEO mentioned that we've got a roadmap of activities that we're undertaking, and extending the consultation period by the additional 2 weeks either puts the rest of the roadmap under pressure or means that we cannot achieve the work that we need to within the timeframes that we've all adopted as part of the master plan. So, CEO, can you say that better than me?
Yeah. Through the Mayor, I'm going to throw over here in a moment to Mr Pearce to give details, but Council adopted a Stage 2 roadmap for this project a couple of months ago, which sets out all the work required to reach that milestone members have set for us in July of next year. Obviously, revocation is a critical component of that. Without completing the revocation within the required timeframe, we cannot market the property as we need to with sufficient time both to obtain an appropriate result, undertake a prudential review of that result, consult that outcome and next steps with the community, and then make a decision. So it is a component of the pathway that is, in essence, critical to making that July timeframe. Mr Pearce, Ms Holmes, are you able to add additional detail or potentially correct any errors that I've made?
Yeah, I'll start at that, CEO, through the Mayor. The roadmap program is extremely tight with very little scope for error. For example, if the end of the community consultation period is extended for 2 weeks to say the 19th or 17th of November, for example, what has to be considered is the analysis and the presentation of that data and the reporting of that data back to Council at a workshop by the very early December. And one has to consider what quality will we be able to give as administration in the analysis of that data on the 4th of December? Will the quality vary much by having an extra 2 weeks? Or are we better off having the 4 weeks and then doing the best analysis and reporting for the council to understand it? And the reason we've given ourselves a little longer, the date of the 4th of December, the workshop to present the results, to enable a report to be written for the December council meeting, which is the 6th, could be, sorry, tonight, the 16th of December, is all very tight. So we have, I suppose, been relying on the wording in our policy around community engagement that says underneath the principles, a section on principles, that flexibility can apply depending on the circumstances required. So in other words, it's not a concrete hard and fast 6 or 8 weeks. And so that's one of the reasons why in July we said if we're going to meet the December council meeting dates and work our way backwards, the 4 weeks would be appropriate. We can potentially add another week, I think, and still meet that result. It's just starting to get very, very tight. So yeah.
I think and again, just to go back to the discussion we had in July, my recollection at the time was in response to similar questioning from potentially you or one of your colleagues, Councillor. The reason why shortening this particular period to 4 weeks was considered, at least by staff at the time, to be worth considering was not only to provide a sufficient time in the roadmap to enable us to meet that July deadline in 2026, but it was a recognition that this process is essentially just giving effect to the master plan layout as already adopted by council and as already has been subject to substantial consultation through phases 1 and 2. In addition, I think a recognition to pick up on Councillor Groot's point that in essence there's not a great deal to consult on here. If council's intent is to give effect to the master plan layout, there isn't a great deal of opportunity for the community to influence an outcome in this process. It feels more like an informed level of consultation than a genuine consulting or an hour level of consultation as members would be committed. Now, again, that's not to enter into debate, but to recall some of the discussion around the table a couple of months ago.
Yes, I understand what we said a few months ago, but it does concern me that we've got 2 ward councillors who are most probably going to vote against it. I'm just, you know, wondering about this, not trying to put things they're not known facts. But
sorry, Councillor. So,
yeah.
Are you still questioning, or are you now speaking to the motion?
Yes, so I've just got another question about. I mean, there is nothing stopping us having a council meeting, as we've got as part of this agenda, in early December, or having, like we've done a couple of times recently, a special council meeting to, you know, try and take up the slack and get things moving. So I'm just saying we do have other mechanisms that it really does concern me that that is going to be a major sticking point. I'll go into my 5 minutes now, finishing my questions. That as soon as anybody out there, particularly people that are most probably listening, possibly, or whatever, we've got to try and remove all the blocks that we can to getting this over the line. Now, you know, I'm just saying that we do have other mechanisms, that we don't have to just stop at one council meeting in early December if need be. Yeah, I just think we really need to get this over the line. So how far are we going to push getting it over the line? I mean, it's very important, this. If we don't do it, we may as well go back and say, well, we've got a whole lot more time now to do things, you know. I'm just thinking it's very, very important to try and remove all the roadblocks that we can out of this. I don't agree with some of the commentary that's been raised about saying, oh, we shouldn't be showing this on the map and we should be showing that. Because quite clearly, as soon as we show something, then people think, well, that's it. You know, that's what I'm saying in my response. So I think we have to be very clear that we can't be putting a whole lot more detail in. And I think the other point to make is that with the new reclamation of land, we are actually gaining and putting more land in to the mix as well under this. So I think that's an important point to make. You're not so much taking stuff away as we're putting new areas, it adds new portions of land to be community land, and it adds more possibilities for community benefits. And reminding ourselves, why are we doing all this? To reduce ratepayers' burden on the upgrades. Let's keep, the goal in mind. We have to be absolutely crystal clear on this when we're going out to consultation and why we're doing this. And yeah, I think that's all I'll say.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion, any points that have been raised on the east end of the table? Councillor Nguyen.
What is the process that we need to get through? And some of the points that Councillor Barnett said to me, has raised, I concur with that, because what do we need to do to give it the best possible, to get it over the line? And if our consultation policy says it's 6 weeks, we've got people who could say, hang on, you didn't meet that criteria. And so that's, without having to do the consultation, you haven't even met that deadline. So I don't know, I kind of feel, would it be okay for us to push it to start it, 1 week, the 1st of October, and then, so that's a week before, and then another week after, just so that we meet that time frame? Would that work? I don't know, I'm just exploring different options, because like Councillor Barnett said, removing all the barriers, all the hurdles to get it over the line. I think that's really important. I think in terms of consultation for me, I think, and credit to Bali's team and what the Mayor said, that if we will have lots of opportunities for people to speak and talk about that. So I'm really happy that we are providing those opportunities for people around the cities at different events, at different places in the community to speak to us about that. So I think that's a positive thing. But again, going back to, as I said, removing that time frame, it's not a hurdle, but I think from the get-go, that's something that somebody can say to us, did meet that timeline. That's not in our policy to, so I don't know, just want to emphasise that.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Councillor Stanton.
We're not doing this, I believe, in a vacuum. We're not doing it behind closed doors. We're not doing it away from the gaze of the community. We have tonight no gallery, no public gallery. I believe that once again, this demonstrates what we're doing, that we have social license to do this. People, at every other stage where the community has not agreed with us, they've turned up and demonstrated they didn't agree with us. There's no one here tonight. I personally don't get emails and letters and phone calls about this. So with the absence of that, I believe that in everything that we're doing, we have a certain amount of social license, and we should take that social license and move forward. Once again, when we go out to consultation, we are not doing this in a vacuum. We're not doing this secretly. People are following the process. The people who have vested interest, who live around the area, the people who are affected, understand that they're watching this process, and I think it would be an adequate opportunity for them to have their say. I'm comfortable with the speed because we are being watched by our community very closely. If no one was watching and we were just kind of proceeding behind the scenes, that would give me pause. But it doesn't. We are being actively watched by the community, and I believe that we have. The fact there's no one here in the gallery tonight, I think it gives us social licence to proceed, and I'm very comfortable with that.
Thank you, Councillor Stannard. Well, that's already, seems like a long time ago, Councillor Nelson, that you moved this motion. And now I'm giving you the opportunity to sum up.
The tree was only small.
It was tiny.
The Burrow tree was a lot smaller back then.
Oh, sorry, were you going to speak? Or
No, sorry.
Oh, I thought you might have had something to say.
I've already said my bit.
I've just taken down some notes. I love listening to the debate. There's always great debate in this chamber and some excellent points made. I just made a special note here, and I hadn't actually thought of that, but just backing up what Councillor Stanton said, every week we think about how the community takes what we're doing, whether it be through community consultation or through street corner meetings or through workshops and everything else. And every time we have something like this in the chamber, there is always a gallery sitting over there. And actually, I hadn't thought of it. Councillor Stanton raised a very good point that there is no one here tonight. So here we are talking about revocation of community land, and there's not one person here. Does that give us the social licence to do it? I think it's a very, very good point. Personally, I don't have an issue with the 28 days for consultation. Clearly, there's a reason. The legislation requires 21 days. The government clearly thinks that's sufficient time. I believe our guidelines of 6 to 8 weeks is excessive. I love to use the saying that sometimes more is less, or less is more. When gathering information, we know from experience if people want to be heard, they will act immediately upon receiving the information. I know that if I want to have something to say and I receive something like post and I'm upset or whatever else, I will respond immediately. So I don't see the issue of the 28 days consultation as an issue. I do think though it's important to remember that the revocation process takes months and it's only potential use of change. We still have the ultimate, let's just check that, we still have the ultimate decision. So even if the Minister approves the revocation and it comes back to us, once we've done the final designs, I mean, obviously it's going to take months and we would have done, we'll be a lot further away in the design, we'll have the potential with the EOIs. Once that comes back to us, if it is approved by the Minister, we can still ultimately say, you know what, this doesn't meet what we want to do. We've had a lot more feedback now, we don't like the EOIs, we don't like the designs, we can still quash it. So this isn't the end of it, this is just a process and we still maintain full control of the process at all times. I'll leave that one in.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. So, haven't asked to take it in parts, which I'm happy to. Say again?
Can we please have it in parts?
I have been.
Oh, you've been asked, sorry, my
Councillor Bird already.
But you said you hadn't.
I suspect there could be some standing and sitting here, so let's get started. All those in favour, part one, all those in favour? Against, carried unanimously. Part two, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division.
Let's do it again. Doesn't matter who you call the division. If you voted in favour, please stand.
Because I assume there'll be a division for it.
So you can say.
Yeah. But I think you've got to be sitting.
We're sitting the vote, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think it's going to be easy for minute taker.
Well, never say it.
Okay. Part three, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division.
See about that old saying, always do the right thing even if no one's looking.
Isn't there anyone online?
Yeah, it's just me.
Oh. Okay. Let's have a seat.
Actually, four dipped.
Yeah,
one.
Part four, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division.
You don't like the land management plan. I think that was a really well documented document.
I'm not saying it's not.
Okay. Part five, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division.
Part 6, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Okay, Part 7, all those in favour? Oh, carried unanimously. Okay, thanks for your contribution. Let's keep things moving on. Item 10.4, annual update of delegations register, recommendations, page 114. Do I have a mover? Councillor Green, would you like to speak to this motion?
I'd just like to vote for something tonight, so I'll do this one.
Maybe someone's going to draw a vision tonight. Do I have a seconder? Clipping me in the wind. I can see you're about to raise your hand. Thank you. Would you like to speak to that motion? Any discussion, any points that haven't been raised? If not, then I'm presuming there's no need to sum up.
Oh, look, I probably just would say that thank you to staff for keeping us honest with these, because these are things that sometimes just slip through the net. My point before said to tongue in cheek to a degree, but it's true. You do the right things even if people aren't looking. And I think this is one of those examples that most people aren't going to get excited about delegations and whether the CEO and the staff are doing the right things or not. But it's really important for our government. So I just want to say thank you to CEO and relevant directors over there.
Yeah, Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Unanimously. Item 10.5, December Ordinary Council Meeting, change of date, and noting that the recommendation is no longer 6 p.m, it's now 7 p.m. That's on the screen now. Okay, so...
Quick question beforehand, why has it changed from 6 to 7?
I believe that the reason why is because we typically have a shortish meeting and then have our end of year dinner together, but given that the agenda will be fairly chock-a-block with some fairly significant items to discuss, the meeting may go for a while, pushing us back, and it might mean that going out for dinner afterwards might be a midnight feast.
Should have kept our 8-week consultation policy.
6 to 8 week.
Yeah.
The recommended.
Might have had that meeting in January instead.
The recommended one. So therefore, it's going to start at 7 o'clock as per normal, and I believe the staff will look to negotiate a different opportunity for the end of year dinner that we normally have. Do I have a mover for item 10.5, Councillor Barnett? I'd like to speak to the motion. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Deputy Mayor Nguyen? I'd like to speak to the motion. Given it's unlikely there's any further discussion,
Sorry, Mayor, I did actually want to say one thing to that, which is very straightforward. We've done this for the last 3 years. I would implore administration at the beginning of the next council to consider the December dates, whether I'm here or not, whether we're here or not. It just seems crazy that we do this every year.
We do a few things every year, don't we?
We do.
That's fine. We should have a register of things we do every year and change every year.
That's consultation policy.
Recommended one. Oh, okay. All right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, item 11. Reports for information can be resolved en bloc unless people would like to pull out any of the 1, 2, 3 items. So 11.1, mayoral monthly activity. Would anyone like to pull that out at all? Just noting that I did meet with Steve Morris as well. That wasn't captured, but that'll probably be in the minutes, I'd suggest. Anyone like to pull out 11.2? Councillor Nelson. Would anyone like to pull out 11.3? Councillor Backer. So we're voting on block for 11.1. There's no debate. All those in favour? Moving and seconded. I'm going to say Councillor Nelson and Deputy Mayor Nguyen in that order. All those in favour? Against? Unanimously. Okay, 11.2, council activity update. Councillor Nelson, would you like to move that?
I'll move it, yes.
The question, maybe?
And just congratulate the team on making us what you've been doing over the last few weeks. Just have a couple of questions for the maintenance. I'm assuming it's road maintenance team. I should learn that lingo and everything else. But I was pulled into some issues on Henrietta Street last week. I'm sure Mr. Wellington's aware. Just a question to the team there. I know in the past that when we're doing works on footpaths, we generally move away from concrete and over to pavers. I used to drive around on the weekend and notice that all the new work we're doing is now pavers. However, on Henrietta Street, we've relaid concrete. I'm wondering why.
I will assume the Mayor's tossing that one through me to Mr. Wellington. Mr. Wellington?
I didn't take it on notice.
Take it on notice. Members will get you an answer as soon as we can.
We have an answer. That's okay. And also, just a comment for future works. One of the residents I was brought into was surprised to come home from work and found a 120 odd millimetre gap between the footpath and his driveway, 200 millimetre height difference. He couldn't get his car in his driveway, so work had to be done. But was more surprised that he didn't receive any notification that the works were going to occur, and now he's got to re-level driveways and regrade driveways and everything else. So perhaps just a suggestion that in the future we do some community notifications or some little drop saying what's happening if there's any major works.
Have you already forwarded information on that one through to Council?
Yes, Council responded, apologised, so it won't happen again. Yes.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a seconder for item 11.2? Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion? Any further discussion? If not, and there may not be a need to sum up, put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 11.3, Councillor Backer, would you like to move that, or you've got a question? Or
I've got a question, and then I might move it to get it on the floor. So this is a really interesting one, and the public might not be aware of the section 278, in brackets 8, which is a internal review of decisions made by council. I've just got a question on regarding regarding the request. It was not accepted. Was there a reason for that? It says it was not within the remit or something.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is the one which members, staff might correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is a review of a decision made by council was requested by a resident.
Yep.
And on review, no decision had been made by council in relation to this matter. So we can't review something we haven't made a decision on, and as a result, there was no decision to review.
Okay, so in that case, I will move it, and you might see a motion in a future meeting. So I'll move it and I'll talk to it. So the section 270 review was in regards to a sculptural art installation and the functionality of the sculpture as a functional bus stop shelter. So this refers to the one further down on Prospect Road, which is opposite the gym and in front of some units on the eastern side. I don't think I was on council at that time. Councillor Group might have been. And it's actually linked in quite closely with the bottle tree discussion we've just had, except guess what? We're responsible for it. So I think there was an artistic interpretation of a bus stop. So there's some metal pillars, which are seats, and there's a kind of waved bus shelter, so it looks really lovely. However, again, from a DDA compliance point of view, and it's not the first time I've heard residents coming back to us with this, especially around bus shelters, you have to remember our community, if you don't drive a car or can't drive a car, the one option you've got is using public transport. So though we haven't done an internal review, I'll certainly be asking at a future meeting some of the hotspots, especially around our is it DIPT these roads? DIT is the acronym these days. Especially our major roads around pavements and bus stops, because we have to make sure it's our obligation as managing assets that people can get easily to and from bus stops and to and from schools. And I think looking at the bottle tree in isolation and looking at the bus stop in isolation is not an adequate way to address that. And if I see this come through to us, I know there's a concern. And when people ask for 270 reviews, they sometimes don't stop at that. They'll sometimes go further. And we know with DDA compliance, that's a federal thing, I think. So I'm just alive to those issues. And I know I'll probably put a motion up to see a review of some of those issues around the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zaki. Do I have a seconder? This motion, Councillor Nelson, want to speak to the motion? Any further discussion, any points that haven't already been raised? If not, I'll see if there's any to sum up. Put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 12.1, Council Member Reports and Briefings. Thank you very much to Councillors Barnett, Nelson, Deputy Mayor Trinwin and Councillor Becker for your reports. 12.2, Motions on Notice here at nil. 12.3, Questions with Notice here at nil. 12.4, Urgent Motions without Notice there are 2. First one, and we're seeking leave to accept these individually. So the first one is Councillor Nelson, Crime Stoppers. So seeking leave to accept this, just show of hands. Okay with that. So the motion content is there. I know this was circulated this afternoon, but just in case everyone didn't get a chance to have a read, I'll give you 30 seconds or so. Okay, Councillor Nelson, you'd like to move the motion or speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to move it, yes. So as I think most of you will be aware, I did attend a meeting last week with the CEO of Crime Stoppers, Mr. Nigel Smart, and discussed some of the recent issues that we've been experiencing around our city. Nigel advised that there's other councils had reported to him similar concerns that they were having, and they've recently partnered with the town of Walkerville. We discussed some of the deliverables that they have, and in recent times, Crime Stoppers is making an effort to try and deal more with the local councils to see what they can do to support communities. Explained to me that some of their deliverables involve things like geofencing, of community messaging, community education, local crime warnings, and they were already having great effect. So the purpose for this motion is pretty much to invite Mr. Smart to speak here to all of us and basically to explain what they're doing in the community, what they can do for our community, and provide an opportunity for questions for us to determine if there is an interest in us discussing an arrangement with Crime Stoppers to potentially help educate and support our community. I have had previous discussions with Ms Taylor, and that's hence the reason we put the 7th or 14th of October, and Mr Smart has confirmed he's available on both those dates. So hope to receive your support. I hope you're as interested in supporting, obviously, the local crime. Sorry, supporting. Let's support the local crime. To supporting crime stoppers. And I've given this motion.
Anyone still watching?
I hope not.
Second account, Planet.
Yes, I think it's very timely to have this. There seem to be some very interesting strategies, and it's very timely because down Ovingham railway station area under the overpass, still having problems down there. Just recently had to have the ambulance, residents called an ambulance because of an unconscious person. And police have still been called out, and there are still noise issues and fires and loud drunken talking. So thoroughly second and support.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any points that haven't been raised already?
Look, I absolutely support. Just a question though, why this required a motion notice? Why it required a motion at all?
I'll start the answer to that one and say I might finish it. Councillor Nelson raised that and was advised that it was a legislative requirement that any workshop content requested or suggested needs to be raised as a formal motion at a meeting rather than being put forward through any informal channels. Any further questions or points? If not, Councillor Nelson, happy with that?
I think I'm happy with that.
Okay, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. So the second one is put forward by me, so I'll seek leave of the meeting by a show of hands to, well, actually, read it first of all. I don't think this one's been circulated. Okay, I'll seek leave of the meeting to accept this motion. I've got it. Let's have it now. Okay. Yep. We're seeking leave of the meeting to accept this as a motion. We haven't debated or voted yet. So I'm going to move it. The reason why it's coming as an urgent motion is I forgot to put it forward within the timeframes, but there's some timeframes that we need to get cracking on if this motion is indeed adopted. So it was just an idea that I had, and I thought it was a nice and simple way to commemorate John's contribution to the community. I've spoken with the family and they were very pleased with the idea. I've also spoken to them about getting George to be interviewed as part of our, collecting the oral history of the city, because they do carry a lot of memories as well, and they were pleased with that suggestion as well. They were happy with it to go ahead. The plan would be to collect the flowers. They've suggested a period of 40 days is the cultural period of time to leave them there, and the staff is watching to make sure that they don't get out of hand, and the staff will collect the mementos and candles and those types of things, give those to the family, mulch the flowers, word up a plaque in consultation with the family, and then they don't want a big thing, they would just like a small ceremony there. So there's still some work to be done to determine a suitable location. Part two actually came about as a discussion I was having with Lucy Hood this morning, who is going to be raising not this motion but John's contribution in Parliament coming up soon, and it was her suggestion that we approach the QPAR to seek suggestions for the potential to locate somewhere where there could be a mural of some description as well. So that's not it's going to happen, it's taken to QPAR for consideration as part of the normal consideration. So hopefully that's fairly simple, and I am seeking your support for this motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gray.
I would love to second it, thank you. As a customer of John's for many years, as I know some of us in the room have been, I think it's a really lovely gesture, and I think, like most of Prospect, absolutely shocked when we heard the news about John's passing. I would like to maybe, and I can't move an amendment, but I did want to be the person to second this. There is a seat not far from the barber shop, and I just wonder if that could be incorporated somehow into the plaque, and so whether it could be something on the bench even to sort of recognise John's contribution. I did have a chat to Lucy very briefly, just talking about how could we make it a little bit bigger than just a plaque. Yep. But I think, along with the Mayor, I was at the funeral a couple of weeks ago, and it just showed the incredible love for one individual. It was a very big funeral, and a lot of love for John in that room. So really, really support this. I'm absolutely shattered that this has happened, but I mean, what a nice contribution by community. And I think if you read the social media posts on 582 and other sort of Facebook social media platforms, you just see the impact that one person made on a community that probably never really knew he made that contribution. So a good reminder for us to tell people when they do make those contributions, I think, because you never know when it's going to be too late. But really, really support this. Thank you, Mayor, for bringing it to us. I think it's a really sensible and appropriate motion.
Any further discussion? Any points that haven't already been made? Otherwise, I'll sum up. So when I spoke to John's sister about this, and we just got chatting about it, and I said to her, you know, I didn't always agree with John's position and his views on council. And she said, yeah, I know, don't worry about that. He used to come home and he'd say, the Mayor and I had this big argument again, and I just can't understand why he can't see my perspective. And I would go home to my wife and say, had this big argument with John, and he couldn't see my perspective. So it was funny to see both sides of it. But yeah, I think that this is the sort of thing that we can do quite easily, and it's a fitting tribute to his contribution. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, I had one other one which I've just been thinking about during the course of the meeting. Can I just float it? May not need a formal motion, but our local MP Lucy Hood has been appointed to Cabinet, and I think it'd be appropriate, if it hasn't happened already, that a letter of congratulations go from the Mayor to Lucy Hood.
Yeah, I don't think we need a. Well, I'll ask the. No,
you don't. You don't do it.
Yep, no, that's a great suggestion.
I just think it'd be good to acknowledge her contribution to us as a community, but also her acknowledgement of the Cabinet position.
Yep, excellent suggestion, Councillor Drew. Okay, so that's the end of the ordinary meeting. Item 13 is a recommendation to go into confidence. So we will. Mel is going to stay, and everybody else is going to clear out before we do that.